Welcome to the Hawkins Observer, a podcast where two half-lifelong friends recap and analyze every episode of Stranger Things as we prepare for the release of the final season, like tomorrow.
Yeah. As always, we're giving you a scene by scene recap discussing the plot and developments, as well as sharing our thoughts, memories, and reactions.
In this episode, Alexi wins a prize. Eleven is back from her trip to the beach. Nancy has a new gun, and Billy goes grocery shopping.
So don't trust any mirrors and get ready for another ride in the station wagon because here comes season 3, episode 7, The Bite.
That's right. Well, if you are binging these episodes, as I hope you are, there's a bit of an error in the last episode. So go back, watch that one, comment on what you think it was. Should be pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we want to hear what your thoughts were on the error that we made in the last episode. So
We
while you're there,
to do better.
yeah, we'll try our best. While you're there, click the subscribe button as well so you can catch all of the mistakes going forward.
Here we go. Gosh, I wrote these notes a couple days ago, so I hope I remember. I watched the episode a couple days ago, so. All right, we open with some happy times at Mayor Klein's Fun Fair. Rockin' in the USA is playing. It's a 4th of July celebration. He's got the marching band up on stage eventually. Hawkins High. It's just very smarmy. He's just a very smarmy dude. Um, Ted and Karen have taken Holly to the festival, their youngest, and they hop on the old Ferris wheel and pay attention, or at least go look at that scene because the most carny looking dude ever is operating the Ferris wheel. I'm pretty sure he's not an extra. I'm pretty sure they just rented the Ferris wheel. They're like, "Can you also be in this scene?" Anyway, Karen says she paid the guy $5 to stop the Ferris wheel when they got to the top so they'd have a really great view of the fireworks. And that's actually kind of a cool idea. So it's happy 4th of July all around. But Holly, this poor kid, she's a great little actress. She
Yep.
just look at the fireworks, then all of a sudden she looks really worried. And she's like really smart for her age. And she goes, "Mom, the trees are moving." Roll credits.
Yeah. Ted Ted has a little bit of a personality here when they get to the top. He's just like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And Karen's trying to talk him, into the great thing that she did, but they're cute together. But yeah, Holly sees disturbance in the forest. It's a pretty heavily wooded area. There's patches of trees that are moving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we know it's not the Ents from Lord of the Rings. It is something else.
Well, from the woods, we continue to see fireworks, but we're at Hopper's cabin, which is nearby the fun fair. We found that out in the last episode, which is really strange because I always thought Hopper's cabin was in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, at
I would
Hopper's,
think that the fair is probably at a fairgrounds, which is
uh-huh.
sometimes off the main grid because they need
Yeah,
a lot of land for it.
that's true. Uh, their kids are all still together at Hopper's cabin, and Eleven says he said he was building something, and it's all for me. And they're like, "Oh, this army they're building, it's not just a spread. He's building this army of people to stop 11." And then 11 goes, "Oh, also he said he's going to kill all of you." And then Nancy's interrupts him and goes, "Did you guys hear that?" And Nancy thinks she hears something outside, and then uh Nancy goes, "Billy, so when he told you that he was here in this room, like you guys were together in this cabin?" And but then poor Will gets the sensation on his neck and goes, "He knows we are here." And everyone files out of the cabin and they see the mind flayer coming down the path from the fireworks.
That's what Holly has been seeing from the disturbance of the trees. The mind flayer goo people monster is like barreling towards them, knocking down trees, and see it on probably the path or the little road that Hopper uses to get to the cabin. It's standing there kind of on the rise, and we see it silhouetted in the moon, and it is terrifying. And it's coming for them because we know now this mind flayer is hell bent literally on just stopping 11.
Yep. And because Eleven spied on Billy, Billy knows where she is, therefore the Mind Flayer knows where they all are. Ooh. We cut back to the I don't remember where we are. Oh, we're back in the underground secret Russian area, and Dustin and Erica are driving a car because they've just rescued Steve and Robin. They've got Steve and Robin in the back of this little cart, and Steve and Robin are just unaware of the world. They're like happy drunk, whatever that chemical was they got injected. They bail out of the cart, they get into the elevator, they get to tap their little key card they stole so the elevator can goes up. And again, they're just like, these guys seem drunk. Um, Steve's pupils are super dilated, Dustin notices. And Steve just keeps booping Dustin on the nose. Boop, boop. So funny. Uh, and they get up, okay, and then Dustin's like, "Okay, Steve, where are your car keys?" And apparently the Russians took Steve's car keys. They bust out of the dock and they're back in the real world at ground level, and Robin and Steve can even taste the air. It's like, oh wow. And then as soon as they get up top, two police looking like people start chasing them.
Yeah. It's funny to think or to watch the like Dustin and Erica, the two younger people, are like parenting Steve and Robin, who are presumably much older than them,
Yeah,
through this. Like Steve and Robin are they should be the older ones, guiding them, but it's the other.
right.
And it's so funny when they get out, they're like, "Oh, I can taste the air." They're like drunk and high at the same time. It's a fun scene to see them like that, and they're wondering, I think, too, if Steve's maybe coming down off of it. But that's when Dustin notices, no, his pupils are still super dilated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't know if they were acting or if they were given something to portray those characters.
Yeah,
Back at the cabin, Nancy goes into Hopper's shed and pulls out cocks a shotgun. And everyone's just grabbing tools. They go back into the house and they start boarding up windows and closing and blocking doors. And we've kind of seen this scene before. Everyone's just standing kind of back to back, looking around, waiting for something to happen. And the lights start flickering, things start to shake, and Will just goes, "It's close." And then it kind of gets quiet. And Max goes, "Where to go?" Boom! Tentacle breaks in through the ceiling. A tentacle or a leg. I don't even know what. Jonathan swings at it with an axe. Nancy starts shooting it with the shotgun. The shotgun jams, and then it's about to eat Nancy's face. And 11 controls it away from Nancy's face. They Jonathan cuts off a whole part of it, and the edge of it breaks off, and it slithers back out through the opening in the ceiling. But then more tentacles come back in after 11, and she's holding back two at a time with her mind. She breaks off two more of the ends of the tentacles, and then another one grabs her by the ankle and starts to pull her up. And then Mike and everyone are holding on to 11, trying not to let this thing take her through the roof. Nancy reloads, fires at the thing's mouth. We find out some of the tentacles actually come from what looks like its mouth. Oh my gosh. Lucas finally grows a pair and grabs an axe, and he was just kind of standing around watching, and he starts chopping at this tentacle with an axe and actually cuts it off. But we see that a piece of this whatever had come off in or on Eleven's leg. So gross. The monster's still roaring, but Eleven eventually summons all of her powers and breaks essentially the creature's head, kind of like splits its head open. And as it's reeling from that, that's when they all load into the station wagon, and Eleven's in a lot of pain.
this is so interesting to see this monster. We know a little bit of how it was formed
Yeah.
with all of these flayed people's bodily goo, but yet it still has some sort of awareness and senses that probably are attributed to the mind flare itself. But when 11 splits its head open, it reacts as though it's like in pain.
Yeah,
Like it has some sort of central nervous system that it borrows from all of the people. Whatever the case is, it's incapacitated just long enough to kind of eliminate the immediate threat.
yeah,
But 11 did not come out of this battle unscathed. She's not just tired from using her powers, she's legitimately injured.
right. Um, the back at the mall, the kids are running, and they've run into the mall to escape these gun-toting cops. They sneak into a movie theater where Back to the Future is playing, but they can't find four seats together. So Dustin makes Robin and Steve sit down, but together, and they just start immediately. They're captivated by the movie, and Dustin and Erica find seats just to sit down and lay low. And I think it's Dustin that goes, "Okay, it's official, never having kids." Uh, Dustin says, "Okay, Erica, you watch these two, and I'm going to go figure out a ride to get out of here."
Yeah, we don't necessarily think that Steve and Robin are going to just sit there and not move or behave themselves because they weren't really able to listen when Dustin was giving them the instruction uh, of sit here, don't move, just stay in one place. And
Yeah.
still laughing and carrying on, and people around them in the theater are like, "Shh."
They are those people.
Yeah,
Um, Now we're back to the convertible, and Alexi, Hopper, Joyce, and Murray are all heading towards Hawkins. And Alexi is explaining to them that there's actually two keys needed to turn off the machine, so it's like a two-man rule type thing. At that there's a vault to get to those keys, and you have to input a special code, which is called it's Planck's constant. Um, and Hopper's like, well, we might be on our own. I don't know if the army's coming since Joyce yelled at them. So Hopper and Joyce are just still bickering. And one of them says, I will do anything if it gets me away from you. Just bickering. And Murray tells them, he says, you two cut the horse shit, get to the part where you admit your sexual feelings for each other. And they're just like, what? They're just taking, like, what is he talking? So Murray is like, psychoanalyzing
yep.
them in the car, and he calls what they're doing a mind-numbing and boorish mating ritual. He's just like so like critical of them. And then in Russian, Alexei asks Murray like, "What was that?" And Murray says in Russian, "I told them they should have sex." And Alexei goes, "They haven't?" And so Murray and Alexei share a good laugh in the back seat.
This scene is so great because there's obviously tension between Hopper and Joyce,
Yeah.
especially from Hopper's side. But Murray calls them out the exact same way that he does Nancy and Jonathan in the last
Right.
season. And then Alexei is not really treated like a prisoner in this scene. He's treated more like a friend of Murray because they share the language in
Yes.
Russian.
Yes.
And and Alexei is he shows a little bit of a social awareness and emotional IQ, I guess, when he's like, wait, they haven't had sex yet? Because even he, culturally and language barrier aside, he also not even understanding what they're saying can understand that there's tension between the two of them.
Yep.
But yeah, a realization that they need two people to turn these keys at the same time, like a nuclear launch
Yep.
kind of thing, is a big plot takeaway from this scene.
For sure. Cut back to the station wagon, which Nancy expertly, like, handbrake 180 parks it in front of a grocery store, and they all run in, helping Ellen, and they're there to grab like alcohol, rubbing alcohol and gauze to help her figure out what's wrong with her leg, and they pull it back, and she's bleeding bad. So Nancy goes to like uh, put something on it, and Max pipes up. She goes, "No, first we have to stop the bleeding, then we have to clean it, then we have to disinfect it, then we bandage it." And everyone's like, and she's like, "I skateboard, trust me."
Yep.
Right in front of Max, Lucas dumps his bag of junk, and he's like, "Is anything in here helpful?" And Max is like, "You are so dumb." Uh, Nancy and Jonathan realize that the thing looks like that thing that they saw in the hospital, but it's a lot bigger. And then they're like, "Wait, do you think Mrs. Driscoll's also part of the human goo monster?" Then they're like, "Okay, if we kill this thing, we kill all the flayed and we end this, maybe." They're like, "But all we know is we need L." Lucas in the grocery store comes upon a fireworks display and he's like, "Oh yeah, Satan's baby. You ever shot one of these suckers?" And Will's trying to play it cool, but he's like, "Nah, is it sweet?" Lucas is like, "All right, we can use the fireworks as like dynamite to kill the mind flayer." Like in this scene, Lucas has a lot of like knowledge about fireworks, so this is kind of fun. He's like, "Eleven's gonna need backup, and if we combine these, we've got dynamite."
Yep.
Then Mike is there to comfort 11. He's like, "You're going to have an awesome scar. You're going to look even more badass." And then together, Mike and 11 have this really cute scene. And Mike's all like, "El, I'm meaning to tell you something. Being broken up is hard. And I like that you and Max are friends, but I was jealous and angry. And I just wanted you all to myself. And that's unfair and selfish. I'm sorry. I've never felt like this about anyone before. And, you know, it just makes me feel crazy." And Levin's like, "What makes you crazy?" And and like me, Mike is just tripping over his words. He's like, "Blank makes you crazy." And Levin's like, "What?" And Mike's like, "It's like a feeling like old people say." And he's like, "What I want to say is that and then before Mike can get it out, Dustin interrupts them. He's on the radio. Barely can hear him though, so this is the first we've heard from Dustin in a while. Dustin's trying to explain that they've been trapped in a secret Russian base and the gosh darn Russians have infiltrated Hawkins. But he's breaking up over the radio. Mike can't quite understand. And then on top of that, Dustin's battery dies. So Dustin asks Erica, "Do you have batteries? I need 8 AA." And nope, don't have that many. So it's time for plan B. So time to get Robin and Robin and Steve out of there, but they're not in their seats. They're actually in the lobby of the movie having another drunk high trip. They're trying to explain back to the future to each other, and when they look up, the lights are all like really pretty, but then all of a sudden they both have to run in the bathroom because it's puke time.
Yeah, the work backwards here. Them looking up at the looks like a star scene
Yeah,
at the top of the mall, the movie theater part of the mall. It's a really cool architectural thing, but it's making them dizzy as they trip absolute balls looking at this thing. And they're like, it's like coming in and out and it's swirling in their eyes. And they think it's cool for a minute until they get sick,
yeah,
uh, and they run to the bathroom. But yeah, it's funny that it takes 8 AA batteries for the radio. I would assume in 1980, whatever year that those were made, probably in the early 80s, because they're we've seen them now for so many seasons, that they would have taken like 4D batteries or 4C batteries or something like that. But
yeah.
whatever the case, it's an excessive amount of battery
Uh-huh.
for this radio. They're pretty high powered radios, I suppose.
Yep.
But yeah, he finally breaks through because he's close enough, I guess, range wise to reach them, although not close enough to be crystal clear. Because Mike and Eleven are hearing him speak, but they're not getting any of his message because it's
Mhm.
cutting in and out. And Dustin is very impassioned with the GD Russians and all that, but they're not hearing that. That this poor grocery store is going to have to replace its front doors again because it's the same store. They throw a rock through the
I
throw a
didn't
rock
think
through
about
the doors to get in.
that.
But yeah, Eleven's in a lot of pain, and Mike is trying to tell Eleven that he loves her, but he just can't
Yep.
do it. And he's trying to get Eleven to understand what he's meaning by getting her there another way. It makes you crazy. They say it makes like some sort of game show trying to get her to guess the word.
Yeah.
But this is a great scene, and Lucas's idea of like, "Hey, is anything in my bag helpful?" And Eleven's like, It's like, chapstick and like chain and stuff. It just none of it
Probably
makes any
probably
sense.
some stuff from Nom.
Yeah, exactly. All stuff from Nam, stuff for his wrist rocket. But then the idea of the fireworks isn't a dumb idea necessarily. We don't see anything of it in this scene or maybe even in this episode, but um, turns out to, foreshadowing not to be a terrible idea.
Right. Uh Back at the convertible Cadillac, Hopper and company pull up to the fair, and Hopper orders Freud to stay put with Smirnoff in the car. Like, don't move. We're gonna go find our kids. Uh, without knowing it, though, Klein has spotted Hopper, Mayor Klein, so he runs to his Mercedes and uses his car phone.
Yeah, the only thing here is that Klein now knows where Hopper is because he has been beaten around by the Strangler guy, looking for the American, looking for Hopper.
Hmm.
We think that Klein's trying to get a hold of somebody. Although I think in this scene, Klein's not able to get through to any. He's like, "Come on, come on, come on, answer, answer."
Yeah.
But in any case, Hopper is fuming. He's so mad at Murray right now for all this nonsense with Alexei and the relationship and everything. So yeah, he's using these nicknames as slurs with Freud and Smirnoff.
Back at the grocery store, they've opened all the freezer doors so that 11 can go into the void. I suppose it's just the sound of the cooling system or something. Um, she's got on a 4th of July like Star Spangled Banner bandana, which was kind of cool. Meanwhile, Lucas is drinking a Coke, which he probably didn't pay for. But then
New Coke.
they start arguing about new Coke versus old Coke because apparently that's about the time the flavor changed. And Lucas is standing his ground. He's like, it's sweeter, it's bolder, it's better. And they're arguing, and 11 either she interrupts them or she's just annoyed that they're interrupting her. But eventually, 11 finds Dustin. And she goes, he's at the movies? And he said something about the gate, maybe? And that's how the mind flare is still alive. They're like, okay, the gate is still open somehow. So they leave, they steal a bunch of fireworks, but after they've left, 11's blood on the floor starts to kind of bubble or sizzle.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw of her leg was that it was a part of the mind flayer goo monster that kind of attached itself to her leg.
Uh-huh.
Mike pulled it off, but whatever work they did on her leg to try to get it to stop bleeding and to help, I mean, they left all of the stuff behind in the aisle, like bloody gauze and like smears of blood on the floor. All of the supplies that they got, they just left there in the aisle.
Yeah.
And the little puddle of blood and some looks like maybe even some like skin tissue or something
Ugh.
is on the floor. And yeah, it develops a bit of a life of its own after they're gone. We got to get a pan down shot of this very worrying scene.
From there, back to the movie theater and back to the bathroom specifically of the movie theater. And Steve and Robin are just hanging out on the floor beside their own toilets, and the ceiling stopped spinning for them. So that's good news. And Robin starts questioning Steve if he's ever been in love. And he's like, yeah, Nancy Wheeler. And Robin's like, she's such a priss. And Robin goes, are you still in love with her? And he's like, no. And she's like, why not? And Steve goes, well, I found someone else I think's better for me. And this is when Steve confesses his like for Robin. And he's like, I've laughed harder than I've laughed in a long time. He's just kind of paying all these compliments. And Robin visually kind of looks like torn by his compliments. And then she goes quiet. And Steve asked, did you OD in your stall? Still alive. Steve smoothly slides underneath his toilet stall into hers, which the floor is disgusting, but whatever. And he's like, so what do you think about this girl? And she goes, he doesn't really know this girl. If he did know her, I don't think he would even want to be her friend. I'm not like your other friends. That's when Robin tells Steve she wasn't obsessed with him in high school because she had a crush on Steve. She was jealous of Steve because this girl named Tammy Thompson would only look at Steve, not at Robin. So Steve realizes that Robin likes girls and just, but rather than make that the point of the story, Steve, being the cool guy who always takes the high road, he just then makes fun of Robin's crush on this girl. Like, her? Like, no, she's this and that and that. Like, so that's kind of honorable that, because Robin in that moment, I think, was worried Steve would not want to even be her friend if he found out that she was same-sex attracted. But Steve's like, oh, why her? Why would you have a crush on her? They're interrupted by Dustin barging in on them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cool scene because it humanizes both of these characters. Not that we need any more humanization of Steve, but Robin especially, and they're literally talking to each other on the opposite side of a bathroom stall. Like they can't see each other at all. So as Steve is going on and on about this girl that he likes, clearly describing Robin, she's in agony. I mean, she puts her head between her legs. She looks up at the sky, like she's just so torn about it
Yeah.
because I think, in an ideal world, she probably wishes maybe that she would have come out to him sooner, or that he doesn't, it's not like his fault that she's not reciprocating his feelings. um but also I think feels agonizing, like, do I say something? Do I actually admit to him, here and now, this kind of secret that I have or whatever? But yeah, once she reveals all of that to Steve, he does not bat an eye. It doesn't change how he feels about her
Yeah.
one bit. And when he realizes it, he has a moment where he goes like, "Oh," which even in the even in the mid to late 80s, like that would have been a really big revelation to him. But he just takes it right in stride and just like continues on with his ribbing of her and just being a really good friend to her.
True.
And take, again, you said takes the high road, like that's exactly what it is. He doesn't let on it all that he's hurt, or that he's sad that he just admitted all these feelings for her and doesn't really think about himself or how it affects him at all. He just,
Yeah, it's kind of like he's immediately disqualified and he doesn't take it personally, you know?
yeah, that's exactly right. But Dustin now knows where they are because of 11. Or no, he knows where they are because he's probably just looking for them everywhere.
Right.
They're not in their seats.
From there we are back at the grocery store and Billy has just walked in, so he's hot on their tracks. He walks in and he sees the blood on the floor, and of course he touches it. When he touches it, it seems like his flayed mind like gets a signal or sends a signal. The touching that blood does something to his awareness of where he is or where they are.
It's the second time we see somebody tracking another group of people, like the Strangler guy tracking Hopper and Joyce earlier through the woods as he finds out that 7-Eleven scene, and now Billy is tracking 11.
It's true. Uh, back to far, back to fire, which that's what we called it where I was from, the fire.
Sure.
Back at the fair, Alexi and Murray are still talking in the back of the car, and they're talking about what could happen to the key. And they're like, okay, do you want it to still work or do you want it to explode? Because it's probably going to explode, and when it does, you don't want to be anywhere near it because it turns people to dust when it explodes, like we saw in the first episode.
Yep.
Uh, they're Alexi's trying to make wheel and deal. He wants to know, like, hey, when this is over, if I help you, I want to be an American citizen and join in on the fun. That's kind of cool. And then Murray's like, who says you need to be an American to join the fun? So Murray takes Alexi out of the car. They go into the fair, and Murray buys a bunch of game tickets and gaming tickets for like the carnival games. And he's explaining, uh, or Alexi asks, these games, are they all rigged? And Murray goes, "Da." Not yet, but da. And Alexi's like, they don't look like they're rigged. Like, I think I could win one. And Murray's like, that's America. So Murray walks off to get food and leaves Alexi on his own. I mean, that's kind of a wow. Like, that's, that's putting a lot of trust in Alexi and showing him something, what they think of him right now. Meanwhile, Joyce and Hopper continue to walk around and they see Karen getting into a ride. And Joyce is like, try not to be panicked, but where are the kids? And Karen's like, I can't keep track of them these days. And Ted's like, Summer, they're probably getting into some kind of trouble. Uh, so Hopper and Joyce were asking them this as they were all getting on a ride, and Hopper's like, don't start the ride. We have to get off. And this lady who's operating the carnival ride, she calls Hopper Magnum PI and's like, nope, not waiting. And she shuts the door and the ride takes off with Hopper and Joyce inside. And it's so scary that they hold hands.
Yeah, it's the same ride that the Strangler and Klein got caught in, like a spaceship that spins really fast and
Yep.
the G-forces just hold you against the sides.
Uh-huh.
I love those rides. I was on one not that long ago out
Ah.
of maybe 2 years ago. But um yeah, Karen says I can't keep track of them these days as if she ever had track of her kids. Like we've
That's true.
gone over this season after season that
Yeah.
nothing or she doesn't have any idea of where her kids
Uh-huh.
are. What's going
Reminds me
on.
of the time Ted goes, I don't know where they are. My kids don't live here anymore.
Exactly. Nothing's changed. Yeah, but I think that the reason that Murray leaves Alexi on his own is because A, he knows Alexi's just going to be playing games. He seems genuinely interested and excited to play these games. And also because of what Hopper said in the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, where Alexi goes to leave as if he's going to escape, and Hopper's like, he has nowhere to go. Like,
Yeah.
so I think Murray understands Hopper was right. Obviously, he was proven right in that scene, but he's like, Alexi's going to be busy playing games. He's going to be fine. He's not a flight risk. I'm just going to go get a corn dog or
Yeah.
whatever. And yeah, it's funny as he describes to Alexi how rigged the games are. Alexi's like, he's watching a guy just throw a ball at milk cans and they fall
Yeah.
over. He's like, how can this be rigged? And Murray's like, that's the thing about America, the illusion of opportunity or whatever.
Yeah. It's a nice scene that we're welcoming Alexi into the fold. I
Mhm.
also like the really quick view of Karen on the ride, and she's the only one enjoying it. Karen's just like,
Yeah,
"Ooh."
Ted looks like he's about to hurl.
Yeah. Back to the movie theater. Back to the Future has ended, and so people start filing out of the movie. And when that happens, the four of them sneak out of the restroom so that they can just blend with the exiting crowd. And I think it's Erica or Dustin, I don't remember who, but someone goes, "Well, shit, that worked." So they're sneaking out, but then they realize, oh, they can't sneak out to Dustin's house because Steve told the Russians his full name. Dustin Hoffman, what's his last name? Dustin I can't remember Dustin's last name. Henderson. I knew it was an H. Uh then Robin spots the baddies. So they start to run, the baddies follow them, and there's escalators, so they use the in between the escalators to slide down. Kind of fun.
That's before big malls knew that that was a problem, and so they, put poles and stuff in a
Plexiglass.
way where you couldn't do that. This was before that. This was probably one of the first
Ah,
iterations of a mall architecturally, and so they
uh-huh.
slid down that stainless steel so fast and to
Yep.
get away. But
Uh,
they're being chased now. They're being chased. 11 is being chased by Billy, and Hopper is being chased by Klein and the Strangler guy. There's a lot of cat and mouse going on in this episode.
cat and mouse. Grab a box of tissues for this next scene. We're back at the fair, and Alexi is just surrounded by children. No other adults. It's Alexi and a bunch of kids. And he's throwing darts at balloons. And this one little kid pipes up and goes, "You can do it, mister." So they're just cheering him on. He's three in a row, four in a row, five in a row. Kids erupt. with elation. Everyone's happy, and he wins like a giant stuffed Woody Woodpecker. So cool. And he's walking up to Murray and he shows him like what he won from a distance, and Murray's buying corn dogs all around. But before they can walk up to each other, the Russian Strangler is walking through the fairgrounds and he shoots Alexei with a silenced pistol and just walks by and in Russian says, "Traitor." Murray sees what's happened. He sees the bullet hole, yells, "Alexei!" So Alexei's stomach area is just starting to fill with blood. Murray leads him to some, like in between some buildings and sits him down. He's like, "I'll get help. Stay here." He runs, Murray runs and finds Jim. He goes, "Jim, they got Alexei, Jim." Here comes the Strangler, and Hopper's like, "We gotta go, we gotta go." And then we find out it's not just the Strangler there. He's brought some reinforcements this time. And then Ted out of nowhere, as they get off the ride, they make an odd couple, don't they? Like they say, someone for everyone. And then Hopper says to Joyce, "Find Murray, get the car, bring it around back." Jim is leading them on now, trying to draw them away from everybody else. So Jim runs into the big top kind of carnival mirrored room type of maze place. And Jim's running through this and yelling at people to get their kids out of there because he's the police. So he runs in, the baddies run in after him, and it's just, one of those crazy fun houses. He fights the first one, kicks his butt. Joyce is looking for Murray, but he grabs her. They go over and check on Alexei, but Alexei has passed. And Murray is immediately just like torn, almost feels guilty. He's like, I just left for a minute for a corn dog. Back in the fun house, Hopper knocks out the first dude, and then the Russian Slayer walks in. Hopper grabs the radio off the first guy he took out, and he hears Russians calling it. Joyce and Murray are walking towards their car to pull it around back when Joyce sees Mayor Larry. And she walks up to him. "Hey, Larry." She punches him in the face and kicks him in the nuts. He's had a lot of face trauma lately. Now he's got nut trauma.
Yep.
Back to the fun house in the mirrored room. Uh, the Russian Strangler is trailing Hopper, but Hopper shoots him in the chest. Pew 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 pew. Other baddies enter. Hopper exits, but then we see that the dude, the Russian Strangler, was wearing a bulletproof vest. Cheater. Hopper descends this place by riding a kid's slide, and he runs and hops in the convertible, and that's when they tell Hopper, "No more Alexei." And then I don't know how they know this. I can't remember. You'll have to remind me. They say, "We found the children. They're in the mall, the lower level. Keep all entry." Oh, Murray's overhearing a Russian transmission with the radio they stole off the first dead guy or the first baddie. And he hears the transmission that says, "We found the children. They're in the mall, lower level. Keep all entrances locked down."
This is such a great scene. I love this scene. Obviously, that's a very sad scene, but storytelling wise, and just the way that they decide to build this narrative,
Yep.
we just fell in love with Alexei.
Yep.
He wants to be an American. He's getting the American experience in a small town carnival. His smile seems so genuine. Like I said in the last one of the last episode recaps, he's the exact opposite of the Russian Strangler. He's a Russian scientist. Like he's innocent, really. Um, and Murray's going to get corn dogs, and we see the Russian Strangler just walking very deliberately at Alexei. Doesn't see him in time to escape, and the Strangler doesn't even break stride. He doesn't make a whole thing. He just literally walks, just stride after stride after stride, shoots him, and just keeps on walking.
Yep.
And it's so cold and heartless. Um, and then the scene in the funhouse is hilarious and awesome. Just the way they shoot it. Like at one point, it's one of those rooms where there's like punching bags hanging from the ceiling, and you kind of have to like work your way through them. and they tear one of them off, and they're beating each other with
Oh
the
yeah.
little punching bag things. And then in the mirrored room, the mirror maze, Hopper is seen kind of crossing what looks like he's crossing in front of the Strangler in a path.
Yep.
Strangler just empties his pistol to the glass,
Yep.
but that gives away his position to Hopper, who's just around the corner, and Hopper lights him up. I mean, just
Right.
like 6 shots right in the chest, and you're like, yeah, Hopper's doing this. Like he's. I mean, we already knew that he was willing to kill the Strangler in the last episode when he counts to three and then actually pulls the trigger.
Right.
He calls his bluff because he's like, "Well, you're a policeman. There's rules." And Hopper's like, "Not for me."
Right.
So, yeah, the kids are found, but the fact that it was the Russian transmission that gave away where the kids are is very worrying because the Russians know where the kids are, and that was Joyce's worst nightmare. But yeah, there was one other point I wanted to make here that um though Hopper going down the slide, he realizes it's the only way out of the funhouse, and he just
Yeah.
like bangs his way down this totally covered slide.
Yeah, he's kind of like grunting as he goes, like, ow, oh, ow.
He doesn't slide down it. He like like shimmies his way down.
Right.
But they have escaped the carnival. They're in the convertible and they're headed towards the mall now without Alexi.
R.I.P. Alexi.
It makes me kind of wonder. There's now been multiple dead bodies that have just kind of been left behind. Like
Yeah.
what's the we don't hear or see ever like what's the news story around a random unidentified dead man in the carnival like with a
Yeah.
maybe a Russian ID.
Yeah.
We don't get that at all.
Not yet, anyway. Maybe he was attacked by a Woody Woodpecker. We cut back to the mall, and it's a very quiet, ominous situation. And these Russian guards are walking around with guns drawn, and we see like a really sweet LeBaron like roped off, like it's a model on display. The four of them, the four baddies, approach a like a food counter when that car alarm goes off, and they turn around. They're like, "What the hell?" And 11 is on the balcony, so she's arrived, and she flings that LeBaron car towards the baddies, and it just rolls them over, just steamrolls them over, kills them. Now all the kids are together. Dustin hugs 11 and Mike. It's only been a couple days, but they've been incommunicado for a few
Yep.
days. This is the first Robin is seen of 11, and she just goes, I don't know what just happened to that car. So at this point, there is a lot of like catching up very quickly, like what they've been doing separately, what's been going on. Dust, or I think Steve explains that Robin cracked this Russian code. That's how we found out about the Russians. And they're like, "What Russians?" And they're like, "Well, didn't you hear our code red? Battery died." All this stuff. They're trying to catch each other up. They're like, "Yeah, we almost died." Um, we see that 11 has a double bloody nose. She hears something that hurts. I don't know why I wrote that, but anyway, 11 all of a sudden is in a whole heck of a lot of pain, and she just starts screaming, "My leg, my leg!" And so she lays her down. She almost passes out, and they peel back her jeans to look at that wound site again. But this time, when they look at the wound, it looks worse, and something under her skin is moving. She screams, and then the credits roll.
Yeah, they're now all together at the mall. And it's a reminder to us as an audience that here we are in the whatever episode number this is, 8. Is this episode?
Mm.
And so far, Dustin and Erica and Steve and Robin are existing on a totally like alternate timeline or alternate storyline to what's been happening with Jonathan and Nancy and Elle and Will and all those guys. And I don't even think that I would have known that until they all come together. And it's like Jonathan and Nancy and those kids don't know anything about the Russians. And, Steve and Robin and Dustin, they don't know anything about the Mind Flayer goo monster.
Yeah, when you think about it as a season, how it's been set up with people like so little interaction between these friends, just like two separate friend groups going on their own trajectories and adventures. It's kind of a crazy season in that sense.
Yeah. But Eleven's um, power to throw this car across the food court and just absolutely take out the baddies was pretty amazing. And again, just in time, as it always is.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't remember her hearing anything. I know I saw your note there that hears something that hurts, but like we realized that she is not okay from this leg injury. They like undo all the gauze and everything that they had put on it in the grocery store.
Yeah, I think maybe she was aware, like maybe she felt like the energy of that place. Maybe she
Maybe
sensed that there's the key in the basement or that the flare is approaching. I feel like she just was like all of a sudden her whole mind and then her body's in pain. I think that's how it happened.
whatever the case may be, when they realize that what's going on with her leg is not just like a flesh wound, from this laceration, they get really worried. And we don't know what's going to happen because that's the end of the episode. But like, there looks to be couple inches of moving critter beneath the skin
Yeah.
of her leg.
Yep. Ooh,
Brother,
another good episode. Well,
no good. I mean, I love when, and you've said this before too, I love when we get a resolution of like all of these different people now are on the same page. These
yep,
kids are back together. We've kept, Dustin very flippantly tells Robin, like, oh, she has superpowers, you know, as if Robin's just going to understand that.
catch
But then
up.
they go through the trouble of explaining everything to everybody. And it's
Yep,
just such a satisfying, 2 minutes where everybody's now on the same page.
yep. Another another adventure where the team is almost all back together. I guess the team of kids is back together, just no adults yet.
Yeah. Yeah, the adults are presumably on their way.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yep.
Alexi's not going to be any help now.
No.
He
R.I.P.
gone. He gone. But
Well,
yeah, that's probably the fastest a Chrysler LeBaron has ever moved.
that's true.
11 did something that automakers were never able to do
She
before that.
overrode the governor. Imagine how fast she can make Billy's Camaro run
Yeah, well, the Camaro can run on its tires. The Chrysler LeBaron has to move fastly, end over end,
through
apparently. Yeah.
the air.
Well, she's not going anywhere until she gets that creature out from her leg, dude. And I'm not going to be able to rest until I find out if she's okay.
Most
I'm,
definitely me either. I
yeah,
think we should watch on.
I think
Just
so.
finish this season real quick. And yeah, y'all, just stay tuned because this we have one more episode to recap in season 3, and then we've got some special stuff coming up after that. So we'll be right back with the Hawkins Observer.